People can hear you. Okay.
Hi, Joe. Hey. How's it going?
Check. Test, test.
Everybody, come on up. This is meant to be an interactive presentation. So those of you who are sitting in the audience, you're part of it. We have one mic if we want to wander around. Okay? Hey. That's right. You draw a crowd.
Good thing I wore this skirt, or I wouldn't have made it up there. Okay. Well, hello, everyone. Thank you all for coming, and welcome to our King's Hour event. I'm a member of the King's Hour working group, or I guess are we a committee or are we a working group? We're a working group. So I'd like to welcome you all and thank you so much for attending the second King's Hour event of the academic year. For those of you who don't know, this was newly introduced this year, and King's Hour is a series of culturally and academically engaging events that are of common interest to the entire King's community. And today's event, titled, "Is This a Community You Want?" A dialogue about poverty, deals with an extremely relevant and timely issue that's of importance in both our community and in our society. So with this very short introduction to the event, I'd like to now introduce our esteemed professor in sociology, Dr. Joe Mikowski, who is co-chair of the London Poverty Research Center, and he's going to introduce the dedicated members of the board. So thank you. Get my water out of here.
Well, as Claire mentioned, on behalf of the London Poverty Research Center at King's, that's our official title. We go by LPRC for short, not really a sexy acronym, but if you can come up with something better, let us know. But we want to thank you for coming to the King's Hour. Those of you who are just showing up, please come up on stage. You're meant to be part of this. It's a discussion, and it's interactive, and you may be famous. So anyway, I'm Joe Mikowski. I teach in the Department of Sociology. As well as Claire mentioned, I'm co-chair of the London Poverty Research Center. The purpose of the London Poverty Research Center at King's is to work with our community partners to gather information and to share information about poverty, poverty-related initiatives, solutions, and we're dealing with a range of different issues, some of which you're seeing flipping across there in our slide presentation. But our 4 theme areas that we're working with at the center include precarious work, food security, mental health, and homelessness. So we've been generously supported in this endeavor in establishing the center by the Sisters of St. Joseph, by the London Food Bank, and certainly as well by our King's University College administration. So there are a lot of people who are contributing to making this center happen. I also want to acknowledge the board members, some of whom are here today as well. Our co-chair, Ross Fair, who's with Fanshawe, couldn't be here today. Sister Sue Wilson, who is here today, the executive director, Sisters of St. Joseph, Sean Quigley, who's the Executive Director of Emerging Leaders, Glenn Pearson, who's co-director of the London Food Bank, Jennifer Vale, who's Homes for Women Intake and Support Facilitator, Bharti Sethi is a professor of social work. She's with us here today as well, and Tracy Smith-Carrier, who's also a professor in social work, and I especially want us to give her a round of applause. Tracy's the one who organized this whole event today, so thank you, Tracy. And she's also doing a number of projects related or on behalf of and in concert with the center. And I also want to mention as well another person who's been helping out in the community and drumming up partnership arrangements and coordinating our work with a variety of different partners. Jennifer Kirkham, she's not here today. She also teaches in our social work program. So I wanted to acknowledge her as well. So we're going to start today's discussion by basically introducing a guest speaker. George is going to, if you want to come on up here. George is going to talk a little bit and share some of his thoughts and experiences in regard to poverty-related issues. And then we're going to go into an interactive exercise. So without further ado, thank you.
Thanks. Well, hello, my name's George. Speaking about poverty, I just moved, so it's into a nice big 2-bedroom apartment, so it's hard to speak about poverty, but when I think about, when I was homeless, is a place I used to have. If you went out the front, there was a nice park on the right, you had a beautiful river you could just walk down to. I lived there for about 1.5 years, and that's the Rideout Street Bridge. I guess I should tell you how I became homeless. It was just some really bad choices, but I happen to be a gay man who's married, but I come out in the 60s, and back then it was still on the books as being an illness, so I was admitted into the psych hospital. My parents were told, well, if you leave him at home, he's going to want to live like this, so you shouldn't let him live at home. So they did what they thought was right and say, well, okay, we won't, which kept me in the hospital. And then what the hospital did says, well, we can't help you anymore because I wasn't very receptive to them trying to change me, so I was asked to leave. And when you leave the hospital, it's the same as if you leave an institution. They give you a bus ticket and say, good luck, and here you go. I happen to be schizophrenic as well. Let's not give them anything for voices, like none of my meds. So my thing is I'm in the middle of the street going like, what do I do? And so I gravitated to other people I saw that, it isn't hard to, point out homeless people when you're on the street. And I thought, how do you live? So they told me. And, as things go on, they're saying, well, why don't you get welfare? So I would go to apply for welfare, and they'd say, well, okay, what's your address? Well, I don't have an address. Oh, well, you need an address to get welfare. And I'm like, well, okay. If I can't get welfare, how do I get this address? Well, I'm sorry, sir, you have to have a place to live. So, it's just a vicious circle. It's almost like it's built that we can't get out. And it's the same as when I was diagnosed and, I applied for ODSP. Just the roadblocks there is like, okay, I'm not sure if we, really should okay you at this time, because not sure if you really need ODSP. So 90% of people who apply for ODSP are refused the first time. So again, you're homeless because they're saying, well, you need money, but you need a place to live. Okay, we understand you have a mental issue, you need money, but you got to do this stuff. And it just seems no matter how hard, I tried to get out, it almost to a point where why even try anymore? Because, nobody's going to do anything for me. I'm never going to get out. As many times as I go to welfare, they're not going to give me the money. ODSP is refusing me when I know, they're saying there's nothing wrong, and I know who I am, so I know there is something wrong. And I got lucky. I was admitted into 7th floor Vic, and they finally put me on the proper medication. Things were going really well, and I thought, okay, this is going to be good. Now they're really doing something for me. I'm going to get out and make it. And they discharged me from 7th floor Vic. Again, here's a bus ticket to get downtown. Good luck. So you leave, you don't have your medication, you don't, again, have money, so then you go, well, geez, let's try welfare again. And almost came to a point for me, getting myself in trouble, because so I could get a welfare check, I would bounce checks, which in the legal system is fraud. You're not supposed to do that. But that's how I got my address, so I could get welfare. And that what would happen is I'd spend my welfare to pay the rent so I could cover the bad checks so I wouldn't get caught, which meant I didn't have food. So the next check would spend on food, so then my rent would be late, I'd be kicked out, and then you're homeless again. So, it's very disheartening when no matter how hard you try, there's no way to get out of this hole. It just seems like the more you want to get out of the hole, the deeper it gets dug. I mean, I lucked out eventually. I got in touch with CMHA, which was just by pure luck. I was talking to somebody and said, you should go see CMHA, because they have supported apartments for people with mental issues, which I thought, oh, excellent. Somebody's going to help me now with them. It's a 2 and 3 year waiting list. So before you get into one of the supporting apartments, you're still going to be homeless. So they let you come to Queens Ave and stuff. I finally got in, so I'm doing well. I've been married 2 years now. And life is really good. But I like speaking because, I still walk down the street and see friends of mine who are still homeless, who can't get out of that circle. And it's for the exact same reasons I couldn't get out of that circle, is because, you can't have money without an address. You can't get food without money. And it's just like there's no way to get out. So that's why, we would go and panhandle and do what we could. I don't know what more to touch on. Okay, I think that's about it. And thank you for my time. And without you, we're not going to end poverty. So, do it. You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you so much, George. And thanks, everyone, for coming today. I've been asked to say a few words just to provide some instructions on the simulation activity that we're about to engage in. Last year, we conducted a poverty simulation with the students in the School of Social Work that was followed up by a community event with local media representatives, school board officials, and politicians. The simulation that we're going to do today is a smaller version of that activity, but we hope that you will find that it is a valuable exercise. From doing research on poverty awareness and simulation activities over the past year, we recognize that this is but a small step in deepening people's understanding of poverty, but an important step nonetheless. We need more opportunities such as this to increase our awareness of poverty, to dialogue about the community we want to live in, and to envision viable alternatives. We know that some of you may have personal experience with poverty, and participating in this activity may be difficult for you. If this is the case, feel free to participate to the degree you feel comfortable. You may wish to be actively involved and share your personal experiences with others at your table, or you may choose not to, perhaps preferring to listen and reflect on the discussion of the group. At your table, you will find a package. We're hoping that you could probably get into groups of maybe about 4. So the table is set up for 8, but maybe you could separate into about groups of 3 or 4. You'll first be asked to review the instructions when you open your package. There's a scenario in there with instructions and a balance sheet. You'll be asked to simulate an entire month in the role of Samantha Ogawa. Each 5-minute interval will represent 1 week as Samantha. In your package, you will find small stapled sheets with week 1, week 2. Open each one of these at the appropriate week. So maybe you can open that now so you can, I can walk you through it perhaps. So the first page should be the instruction sheet, and in a minute you'll be given a chance to read through that. Then you should find after that the actual simulation. The scenario page with Samantha. There should be a number of small sheets with week 1, week 2, week 3, and week 4 in there. They're stapled so that you can't open them until the appropriate time. Like I said, we're going to have 5 minutes on the clock. And maybe we'll actually add another minute, Corey, if that's okay, just so that people have a chance to read through the instructions. So maybe 6 minutes for the first round. Please use the pencils in your package to fill out the balance sheet to keep track of your expenses and your earnings. And at the end, we'll have a chance to debrief on the exercise. Okay, so with 6 minutes on the clock, feel free to now open the pack, or you have your package, but read through the simulation or the scenario, and you can open up week 1 only to find out your instructions for this week. Okay, 6 minutes on a clock. Corey, thank you very much. Good luck. seconds. Okay, open up week number 2 now, please.
talking to all the kids in the stage around, and I was sitting watching these guys playing pinball, and everybody was gone. So I went back out.
Open up week 3 now, please.
I didn't know their names, but I'd seen everybody do this. Immediately, a guy in a truck, thankfully a nice guy, picked me up. They go here, and then you go there, and they took me home. And by the time I got home, my mom, in panic, realized she'd gone back, right? So we'd missed each other, but my dad was there. They called the police, the whole thing. But that's what little Joey did. Oh, I guess I'm on my own. I learned early on. You gotta fend for yourself in this world. But yeah, hitchhiking, whatever. It's crazy. Exactly. That's what I say. I'm wondering about this, how we adapt to our situations, because we're paid well here in Kings, relative to most people, quite frankly. And yet, I find I'm never ahead. In other words, it's almost as though the expenses expand to match whatever your, current situation is. And then when you lose a job or things change in the family, you then recalibrate what you're going to do, what you can do, what you can't do, whether you're going to go on a holiday or not. Yeah. Well, that's a really good realistic one, right? I mean, that happens all the time. Well, I was a stay-at-home dad, so we calibrated our situation because my partner had a permanent job and benefits, thank goodness. But then we didn't know what to do about daycare, right? So somebody's got to look after them. We couldn't really afford it, so it's all. 1 week, basically 1 week's work. Oh. Oh, we're supposed to be doing something? All right.
Okay, open week 4, please. That's it. There we go.
Maybe address the audience too, let them know.
Okay, we've come to the conclusion of the month. How did we do? In your package, you should have a small group debriefing sheet, and maybe you can take that out.
Exactly.
So I guess we're just going to open it up for question and answer period now. And we can use the questions that we have in front of us. The first question was talking about what was it like to experience the scenario. So I just want to get your feedback on what were your impressions, your thoughts, your feelings as you engaged in the scenario. Despair. Mm-hmm. Overwhelming. Mm-hmm. Deeper and deeper in a hole, yeah.
As George was talking about that same hole earlier.
Vicious cycle, yeah. Yeah. Other thoughts? Yeah. Right. Yeah. Yeah. How to even prioritize what should be the priorities. Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. And then you open up next week. Oh. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. So what do you think was the biggest challenge you faced as Samantha? So few options. Yeah. The biggest obstacle? Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Sell the car, and if you sell the car, you lose your job, right? Because you need the car to get through the month, right? Yeah. So you have to find other creative ways, right? Did other people find other ways to try and get by? Right, okay, so soup kitchens, food banks, that sort of thing. Was the guide helpful? Yeah. See, at least you have the guide. A lot of people don't get the guide even, right? You have to know there is a guide.
I'm just curious, how many people were you able to pay did you pay for your housing up front? No? Some of you didn't. It's interesting to note because most people, that's one of the first things they try to do because it ain't fun losing your housing or having to move. I don't care whether you're rich, poor, or anything in between. It's stressful.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So what did you learn about the life experience of low-income families? Anything you took away? Yeah. 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 Exactly. Exactly. Mm-hmm. So how will you use what you learned from this experience, do you think, in your everyday lives? Yeah. 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 Well, and recognition too that there are people who are experiencing this right now in this room, right? Yeah. Because not everybody is born into privilege. And like somebody mentioned, it's really just the luck of the draw, being born into the family that you were born into or not, right? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yeah. The systems that are set up. Yeah. Yeah. And we do have a federal government who is actually now saying they're going to have a national poverty reduction strategy. So that is hopefully something on the horizon that I'm hoping will make a difference. And I know that the community organizations in London are doing a lot of work to try and do that one-on-one that you're talking about, Renee. And it's hard because those systems are still in place, right? Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
What you need is this advanced thing. It's called a flip phone. This is what I have.
Very advanced.
This is cutting edge.
Cutting edge technology at its best. Mm-hmm. 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 Yeah, I understand. I think too, though, I mean, if people are looking for employment opportunities, trying to get a phone, and you're trying to get your resume out there, and if an employer wants to contact you with a phone, so yeah, it's a matter of priorities, right? So am I going to take the money from the cell phone? Am I going to use it to help pay the food or the rent this week? Or am I going to put it aside to in hopes that I might get a call from a potential employer to use that money? So it does become this really tricky process of trying to budget. Because even things, people talk about, well, they don't really need cable or they don't really need the internet, but also those things can be used very useful in helping people get jobs too. So it's yeah. Oh, the latest, right? Yeah. 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 Right. Right. Yeah. 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 Mm. Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. 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 Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. And that financial literacy piece, I think people have been saying for a long time now that we need to be teaching children the financial literacy piece. Exactly. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Oh, a bunch of questions. Yeah. Right. There's no point in working. Yeah. That's a very good question. Right. Mm-hmm. Right. Exactly. Oh. there was another one. There was another one. Another final comment question. Yeah. Mm. Yeah. Budgeting. Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Exactly. It's actually dealing with the issue of poverty. Yeah. And doing exactly. Yeah. And that's where I spend my time in terms of advocating for change to change the systems that continue this vicious cycle and cause people to go bigger and deeper in that hole. Yeah. I think I'm being I'm gonna get the cane soon.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank
for
you very, very
participating.
much for coming.
We really appreciate it.
Questions. I wanted to keep it. I'm really sorry to interrupt, but I'm tasked with keeping us on time. So, on behalf of the King's Hour Working Group, I'd like to thank you all for participating in today's event. And then on behalf of the King's community, I'd like to thank George Finley and the board members from the London Poverty Research Center, especially the King's Hour's own Tracy Smith-Carrier, for designing and executing today's simulation. So thank you very much to all our speakers. I think this is a very powerful, interactive event. I'd also like to thank Corey Cook, who I did not forget this time, for all the tech and audio and video and making sure everything runs. So thank you for that. For students, King's Hour counts as part of the co-curricular record. So if you haven't already, sign in on your way out. Yes. And last but not least, so King's Hour is a conversation. And we've already started that conversation here, but the goal is to have it continue into the classroom and beyond. So I really want to thank you all for starting in it, what I'm sure will be an engaging, cross-campus, cross-disciplinary discussion. Thank you all for coming. So we'd just like to show our appreciation. George, if I could have you come up. I know that you're a future King student, so we'll give you some good swag to get you started.
Welcome.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much. join us at the next King's Hour events in January and March. Thank you very much. If you have questions, feel free to stick around and ask or continue to.
Yeah. Good.
I was good. I had more time, but it was
I know.
so
I should
good.
have been a bit rushed.
When I went
Especially
around the
to brief.
tables, I couldn't believe the conversations.
Really good. Glad. Good. I'm glad to hear that. I know it's tough to do a simulation in 50 minutes.